Well, despite the challenges facing Elon Musk, more often than not, he's proven most doubters wrong. Most of that success comes from his drive and relentless work ethic. Susan Roberts spoke to Ashlee Vance, a journalist and author who's written a book about Elon Musk. She asked him what makes the Tesla founder tick.
Well, there's a few different sides to Elon. You know, if you meet him in person for the first time, he can come off a bit awkward. He does have that engineering vibe to him. As you get to know him a little bit better, he's very funny. He's kind of surprisingly down to earth. He doesn't travel with a lot of handlers. He doesn't expect a lot of attention if you're in a restaurant or something like that. And then, you know, there's a much more intense side to Elon that people at his companies see, which is, you know, he can really lay into people. He's very demanding. He works these incredible hours and expects other people to. Having dealt with him for 2 or 3 years, I would say he's the most intense human being I've ever met.
Really? As you know, Tesla has had some soft sales figures. How's he making up for this with his other ventures?
Well, I don't know if he's necessarily making up with his other ventures. SpaceX is doing very well right now. SolarCity is actually in sort of a rough spot. They've been burning through a ton of cash, and Tesla's burning through a ton of cash. The one thing Elon always seems to have going for him is this shine. You know, he's seen as the new Steve Jobs in Silicon Valley. His celebrity has only increased over the last couple of years, and he used to say all these crazy things, and people would doubt him, and these days there seems to be a lot more faith that Elon can pull off the things that he talks about. And, you know, the Tesla sales, you look at the Model 3 and all the pre-orders for that car, I definitely don't think they have a demand problem. They have a problem getting their manufacturing in order. If you look at the history of the company, you know, it took them an awful long time to get here. The company's first car took about 6 or 7 years to get out. The Model S was many years behind. I'd say they should actually be ahead of where they are right now. It is a funny thing that SpaceX seems to have got the manufacturing side of its operations down so well, and Tesla has just struggled year after year to really get the company where Elon wants it. And you know, this is absolutely his biggest problem right now.
You've had one fatality. I mean, that seems like that would make anyone scratch their heads and think, wait a minute, what did we do wrong?
Oh, with the autopilot. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you know, we're at an interesting time with this technology. I live in Mountain View, California. There's Google's driverless cars going around me all the time. You know, the technology has actually improved much more dramatically recently than I think anyone else would have expected. On the whole, there's so many Teslas out there using this. It's done pretty well. I think as a society, we're at a interesting time with this technology to have questions to answer, and Tesla, as always, is you know, pushing the limits.
What's next for him?
What's next for Elon? Lord knows. He's gonna come out with this new master plan and sort of give us an idea of where he sees Tesla going in the future. I think for the moment, until the Model 3 car comes out and this battery factory gets built, he's got an awful lot on his plate. I suspect if he gets Tesla to a place where he thinks the company can survive, I would imagine he'd actually leave Tesla and end up running SpaceX full-time, because I think that's where his passion lays.
How does he compare to some of the other heavyweights in the technology sphere?
It's tricky to draw comparisons. You know, I think a lot of people want to do the Steve Jobs thing with Elon, and there's certainly bits of that there. He's the same very demanding guy. He has this great attention to detail and expects a lot of his employees, and you know, he knows everything that's going on at his companies at all times. I would say he's really unique in the history of business. It's hard to find another guy who has changed at least 4 industries already. He's just 45 years old. I don't think there's many other people that do all the marketing at their company, handle the sales, handle the strategy, and even get down into the technology. And so to me, he's a one-of-a-kind type character.
You've studied him and followed him. What can we learn about him in your book, Ashlee?
The biggest thing that I took away is, one, he's just about the most interesting man in the world. If you look at the companies, they're fascinating. If you look at his life story, it's fascinating. The biggest takeaway for me personally really was, I guess, sort of how I live my life. I saw, I wouldn't want to live my life quite like Elon. It's a bit too demanding, but he picks 3 or 4 things that are extremely important to him, and he devotes every ounce of his energy to pursuing those goals. And so after I wrote the book, I sort of sat back and reflected on my own life and decided to be, I guess, more serious about my priorities and how I pursue them. And I think a lot of people have sort of taken inspiration from that model.